In this session, we're going to learn about how to create newsletters and follow-up content to build relationships with our prospects. So let's talk a little bit more about optimization and build on what we learned in the last session. Just like we learned that we need to optimize the very first time that someone visits your website by getting them to opt in, we need to optimize the building of the relationship by setting up and sending and following up with additional pieces of content and marketing. Now it turns out that as you build your information business, you're going to learn that many sales are made after the first time someone visits your website. Many sales are made on the second contact, the third contact, the fourth, the fifth, the 10th, the 20th contact. And every contact that you don't make equals sales that you don't make, and income and money that you don't get. So that's the best way to look at it. We want to optimize all of our follow-up. So what are newsletters and follow-up content really about? Well, they're about building a relationship with the customer. So you've got to remember that the first time someone comes to your website, that they don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you yet, they don't really know anything about you for the most part, and they're very skeptical. So they're not likely to buy the first time. Now they're more likely to buy the first time than they are any future time. But if you follow up with them, okay, you repeatedly follow up with interesting content, what you'll find is that the sales that you'll make cumulatively on the back end, what's called the back end, okay, after the first visit, after the first sale, are much higher than you'll make on that first visit alone. So what makes for interesting content that builds a relationship, that builds trust, that makes you more credible, and that ultimately makes people want to come back and buy your stuff? Okay, well, here are a few elements. The first is it has to be relevant. Google has basically brought this whole concept of relevancy into our consciousness in the modern day. And relevancy means that it's a good match for what the person is interested in. It's relevant to them. And Google has this whole algorithm and a giant computer network that you can go and type in a word, and it brings up results that are relevant to your search term. So we want to have a good match. We want to make sure that what we're talking about in our newsletters and our videos and other follow-up content, we want to make sure that it's relevant to the prospect's interests. Okay, hint, this is going back to what the prospect is afraid of, what their frustrations are, what their anxieties are about, or what their desires are. The next thing that we want to put in our newsletters, we want to put in our videos, are specific techniques to get specific results. People love techniques. They love action steps. They love tricks. An idealistic prospective customer thinks that they could probably solve their problem if they just had the right magic trick to do it. So if you've got a great technique, you want to give that to them. You want to offer it to them. I'll give you an example of this in a few moments here. Next, involving. And you might ask, well, how do I involve someone in a video that they're watching, or how do I involve them in a newsletter? Well, there are a couple of ways. One, you can ask them to contribute. Okay, you can ask them to write in and ask you a question. You can get them to maybe even contribute some of the content in some way. Another way is you can get them to do exercises or take action steps while they're watching your video or reading your newsletter. Involvement is a key to building a relationship, to building trust. The next element that I recommend that you include is make your content fascinating. You want to make sure that as your prospect is going through your content or your newsletter, that they are riveted to it because it's really interesting. And the way that we do that is we show them a new way to look at something, an insight that promises to give very quick results, etc. So if it's not fascinating, if you don't look at the thing that you're writing about or speaking about and say, this is just really fascinating to someone that doesn't know anything about this, to someone who's interested in this topic, you want to throw it out. We can only afford to teach about things that are fascinating. Another element that makes your content really interesting is news. Okay, news. any kind of new information is perceived as much more valuable. So if you can create newsletters or videos about new things, that will automatically make them more valuable. And a subcategory of news is discoveries. And these can be discoveries that you make yourself or discoveries that science makes. People love to hear about things that were just figured out. So these are some of the topics that I like to include in my newsletters or in my follow-up videos. Also, you want to remember, just like we've learned in our earlier sessions, to communicate in complete concepts. Complete concepts. And you heard me recommending to start creating content every day and to use the why, what, how, what if, for learning styles in every communication that you create. Well, that's what we want to be doing here. We want to make sure that every newsletter or every follow-up video is a complete communication. And I'll give you an example of this in a moment. Now, what most people don't realize is that in my business, we don't have just one type of email newsletter. We actually have 3 types of email newsletters. When I started my first information marketing business, which is Double Your Dating, which I recommend go to doubleyourdating.com, sign up for our email newsletter, just take a look at some of our marketing and our products. You'll see how I have learned a lot of what I'm teaching you right now. So as I was building that business, I started out, I didn't have a newsletter to begin with. I didn't have an opt-in page, then I created one. And I first started out with just tips, and I called them dating tips. And I'd have a simple tip for how to create an online dating profile, or how to start a conversation with an attractive member of the opposite sex, that kind of thing. And this worked pretty well for a while. And then next what I started to do was to get my customers and my prospects interacting. So I had them send in their stories of how they were using the techniques and send in their questions, and I created 2 more newsletter formats. The second newsletter format is what I call a Q&A, or a question and answer. So a tip newsletter might be a few pages, anywhere to 10 pages long, and it's just me giving a tip of how to be more successful. Well, the Q&A newsletter is me taking an email or a comment or a question that I got from one of my readers or one of my customers and putting that in, and then essentially following up by writing an in-depth answer. The way I think of it is I'm actually creating a tip, a dating tip in the dating advice category, and I'm putting it after a question from a customer, and I'm tailoring it. Now this makes it really interesting because now we've got a dialogue going on. We've got 2 people that are interacting. We've got the customer or the prospect, and we've got me. All right? And this is very interesting when 2 or more people begin to interact. And it's also great because the prospects can see that other people are using the techniques. It gives an opportunity to go into depth in some areas and so forth. And then the third type of newsletter that I created is called a mailbag. And a mailbag is when I take a whole bunch of questions and comments that have come in from customers, and I put them one after another, and then I have little abbreviated responses. So in this case, someone might write in and they might say, hey, I bought your book and I used this tip, and I was able to get this woman's phone number, and my question is, how do I follow up and actually get a date? Well, I might put a little 1 or 2 or 3 paragraph answer, maybe up to a half page or even a page long, but then I'll go right on to the next one. And someone will say, I tried your online dating profile and it didn't work out for me. Here's what I wrote. What did I do wrong? And then I'll answer that one. But again, maybe just a few paragraphs. And in this, I might have 10 of these little question answers, one after another. And it's a very interesting format because now we've got a lot of interaction. The other benefit of the mailbag format is that maybe up to half of my content is being created by my readers because they're writing in with their stories and they're writing in with their questions. Okay, so 3 different types of newsletters: tips, Q&As, and mailbags. Now, I mentally use a very simple format when I'm creating a follow-up newsletter, video, or piece of content, okay, something that's going to build a relationship. And the simple formula is introduction and theory, okay, which you might think of as the why and the what from our 4 learning styles, but it's the introduction and the theory. And then the second part is the action steps, which you'll think of as the how and the what if. And then the third part is the offer, okay, sending them to go buy one of my products. So I'm using this kind of abbreviated model because what I want to do in my mind is I want to make sure that I introduce a very important idea. I give a general overview of what I'm going to teach, and I give the theory behind it, I give the what. Then I give some action steps, and I want to always remember to give specific action step techniques. And I usually like to do it in a numbered list. So I'll give you 3 action steps, or 4 or 5, with specific actions, exactly what to do. And then finally, I'll tell them, okay, if you liked this, you should probably go check out this product that I have to offer. So let me give you an example. Okay, I'll build a follow-up newsletter or piece of video content right now. So let's say I was going to create a newsletter or a follow-up video about time management. Okay, again, I would want to start with a big frustration that people have, a problem, and a specific result that they want. And I would want to make it something that they probably haven't heard of before, that is very interesting, that's very technique-oriented. But I'd go a little bit further, because in my content, I want to make sure that whatever I'm teaching ties in nicely with the product that I'm going to offer at the end of my newsletter. Okay, I don't want to just give a tip and then say, okay, have a nice day. I want to give a technique and a tip and some great content, and then I want to say, and if you like that, come buy my stuff. So in this case, I have a training program called Wake Up Productive that you're probably familiar with by now. So I want to choose something, I want to choose a topic, a tip that would be a natural tie-in for the Wake Up Productive product. Okay, so I might start with a big problem that a lot of people can relate to, of being busy all day and being active, doing lots of activities, but getting to the end of the day and not having gotten anything done. Okay, a lot of people complain about this. So I might start off my content, and I might start off with a question. Okay, and this is the way the content might go, just like this. Were you busy all day yesterday, but at the end of the day, you realized that you didn't get anything done? I'm about to show you a technique for getting at least twice as much done in a day and actually working less time to do it. Here's how it works. Most of us start our day off by first checking our email, and then checking our voicemail, and then getting to work. And what we don't realize is that we're almost guaranteeing that we will have a low productivity day when we do this, that we'll get to the end of the day and we won't have gotten anything done. Why is this? Because if we check our email and our voicemail first thing, we're unconsciously saying, what other people want me to do today is more important than what I think I should do. We're basically giving other people control of our lives before we get anything done, before we do anything important. And this leads to us spending the entire day doing one thing after another that other people want us to do, and never getting around to important things that build our business, make us money, and get us where we want to go in life. So here's what to do instead. If you'd like to double your productivity and actually work less time, invest the first 2-hour block of work time each day in an important business-building, money-making project that you know is the right thing to be doing that day. And then after you've worked this 2-hour block, then check your email and voicemail, and then follow up on obligations and requests from others. By using this simple technique, you'll automatically begin doing what's important first in your day, and you'll feel a sense of accomplishment right off the bat. You'll also begin to automatically see and realize that most of the requests and interruptions coming from others aren't productive, and you'll begin putting systems in place to prevent them from happening at all. So here's what to do right now. Here are 3 action steps. Step 1, open up your calendar and block off the first 2 hours of every work day. Okay, you might mark this productivity time. Step 2, make a list of the most important projects to work on over the next 90 days and write in the name of the project to work on in each block at the beginning of that day. And then step 3, put an appointment in your calendar right after that 2-hour block that says check email and voicemail, so that after you do your high productivity work, you check your email and voicemail and find out what others have for you to do that day. As you can see, if you'll do this one simple thing and invest the first 2 hours of each day working on a high-value business building and money-making project, you will probably at least double what you accomplish each day, and you'll increase your success and increase your income. Now you might be saying, yes, but I've already trained people that they can interrupt me anytime, or I don't think I have the willpower to make myself do this. If this is the case, then what I'd like you to do is go and read this right now. And I'd put a little link to my sales letter to Wake Up Productive, or if I was making a video, I'd say, if that's the case, go click the link underneath this video and read that page, and that will help you solve the problem. Start doing your high-value work first, and I'll talk to you again soon with more productivity tips. Okay, so that was kind of an abbreviated version of what I might do for a newsletter or for a video. And what you'll notice is I started off with a big frustration, right? Working all day and not getting anything done. Then I talked about how it works, why it happens that way. Then I gave the idea of spending the first 2-hour block of time working on the high-value activity or project in your business. Then I gave a series of action steps, and I summarized. But then very importantly, I said, and if you don't know how to stop people from interrupting you, or you don't have the willpower, then go read this, or click the link at the bottom and read that, and that will help you solve that problem. Why? Because I know that they're interested in this topic, and I know that if they read that, which they probably will after getting this great tip, that it will be very likely that they'll buy the product. Okay, so another point here. It's important to use what you've learned in the session on serializing. Don't make every video or newsletter or follow-up campaign piece about a different thing or a different topic. What you want to do is choose a few strong topics, your very best topics, and then cover each of them from several angles. So for example, with this piece of content, the basic underlying idea is to invest the first 2 hours focused working on a high-value, high-productivity, kind of high money-making project in your business, and to not check your email and not check your voicemail. Right? So I could take this from a lot of different angles. I could do another newsletter on the psychology of why we check our email and our voicemail first thing, and how to kind of prevent yourself from going there. I could talk about how to ritualize that 2-hour block so that you do it automatically. Okay, so you can see I could take many variations on that one idea because I know that it's something that's kind of a high emotional value need that people have, and I want to serialize my very best idea. Okay, so let's do an exercise. Down below this video is an exercise. Go ahead and download it now and print it out, and then I'll walk you through it. So download it, print it out. Again, remember, print it out at about 95% so it fits on the page. Pause the video and come back when you're ready. Okay, let's go. Creating follow-up newsletters and videos. Once someone has opted in to your mailing list, it's important to follow up and build a relationship, while at the same time connecting and offering your products and services. The formats that I like best are the tip newsletter, the Q&A newsletter, and the mailbag newsletter. All work well, and the Q&A and mailbag formats have the added benefit of having others help create your content. So first, list the top 3 to 5 hot-button emotional topics to write about. Okay, so you might go back to some of your earlier exercises, and let's migrate some of our best ideas. Next, create 5 to 10 serialized variations or serialized perspectives or approaches for each of these key topics. And then finally, the last step is to get to work. Start creating daily newsletters or videos or blog posts or pieces of follow-up content with tips for each topic. Okay? I recommend daily because if you can create content every single day, you will get better at it at a dramatically increased pace. If not, try to go for at least 3 times a week. Okay? 3 videos, 3 follow-up newsletters, 3 blog posts, 3 pieces of content. And what you're going to notice is that as you create your follow-up newsletters and videos and other content, you're going to get better faster. Okay, after doing it for several weeks, it's going to be much, much easier. So you got to get yourself into action, and you got to get yourself doing it now. So take this format, take these examples, and start creating great follow-up newsletters that have lots of value and that then direct your customers to go and read your sales materials. And in the next session, we'll learn how to create your sales processes and your sales letters and your sales videos online. Okay, get to work, and I'll talk to you in the next session.